On the dark night of September 9th, 1980, a giant cargo ship was battling the waves in the Pacific Ocean. Bigger than the Titanic and as tall as a 16-story building, this ship could easily be called a fortress of steel, but only a few hours later there was no trace of it. No radio signals, no floating wreckage in the sea. A ship weighing millions of tons suddenly disappeared without leaving a single clue. For the next 20 years, authorities kept telling the world only one thing: the ship simply sank. But when the father of one of the crew members began searching for the truth, what he uncovered from the depths of the ocean shocked everyone. On the evening of September 9th, 1980, a massive cargo ship, MV Derbyshire, was cutting through the deep waves of the Pacific Ocean on its way to Japan. But from the east, another guest was approaching, Typhoon Orchid, a storm growing deadlier by the hour. The Derbyshire had already been at sea for 8 weeks. After picking up 1,500 tons of iron ore from a Canadian mine, it had crossed the Atlantic Ocean, sailed past the southern coast of Africa, navigated the Indian Ocean, and was now close to its final destination. On board were 42 experienced men, engineers, helpers, and experts, counting down the last hours of their long voyage. But fate had other plans. The ship's captain, Geoffrey Underhill, had 20 years of experience at sea and was in charge of the mission. His wife had already flown to Japan from England to meet him, but now that reunion would remain only a dream. For days, Captain Underhill had been relying on weather reports. He had faced many storms in his career and believed the Derbyshire could handle this one as well. The nearest safe harbor was far away, so the only option was to fight the storm. He reduced the ship's speed and turned its bow slightly toward the waves to maintain stability. He also sent an emergency message with their location and a warning about the worsening weather. But the storm's fury kept growing. Waves rose higher than 10 meters, some even as long as the Derbyshire itself. At nearly 1,000 feet long, longer and wider than the Titanic, and standing as tall as a 16-story building, this was no ordinary ship. It was a state-of-the-art steel fortress built to face the roughest seas. That's why the captain still thought Typhoon Orchid was nothing extraordinary. But something was about to happen in the dark depths of the ocean that no one could have imagined. That same night, 2 other cargo ships also battled the Typhoon. By the next morning, both made it safely to port. But there was no sign of the MV Derbyshire. The fortress of steel had vanished without a trace. For 20 years, the world did not know what had happened that night. The Derbyshire sent its last radio message on the evening of September 9th, 1980. After that, no distress call, no final message. Just 6 days of terrifying silence. Even the ship's owners didn't report it missing at first, assuming perhaps the radio had failed and the vessel would reappear. But days passed and there was still no word. On September 15th, concern finally spread. An international search was launched. Helicopters, airplanes, and naval ships scoured the coordinates where the Derbyshire had last been located. Yet not even a single floating piece of wreckage was found. After 6 days, the search was called off. Authorities brushed the matter aside, saying simply, "The sea swallowed it." The investigation ended as quickly as it had begun, and the media coverage faded just as fast. The families of the crew begged for answers, but all they were told was that there was nothing to investigate. For the victims' families, this was unbearable. They felt something was being deliberately hidden. The MV Derbyshire had been built only 4 years earlier at Britain's famous Swan Hunter shipyard. It was capable of carrying over 150,000 tons of cargo, 4 times more than older ships. It wasn't just about size, though. The design was new. The Derbyshire was an OBO carrier, able to transport oil on one leg of its journey and iron ore on the return, ensuring it never sailed empty. This made it far more profitable, up to 30% more revenue than traditional ships. At the time, only 6 of these bridge-class ships existed in the world. But Swan Hunter, once a powerhouse of global shipbuilding, was struggling against cheaper, faster shipyards in Japan and South Korea. To cut costs, corners were being cut, and perhaps therein lay the secret of the Derbyshire's disappearance. For many families, the disaster meant unbearable loss. But for one man, it became a mission. Peter Redyard, who lost his young son on the Derbyshire, was also an experienced ship surveyor. When he began his own investigation, he uncovered shocking truths. In 1982, just 18 months after the Derbyshire vanished, another bridge-class ship, the Tyne Bridge, faced storms in the North Sea. Suddenly, cracks appeared in its steel superstructure. The captain ordered an immediate evacuation, and the crew was rescued by airlift. The ship barely survived. When Peter examined it, he found structural cracks in the front. Further research revealed that every bridge-class ship had developed similar cracks, all in the same area. Quietly, these ships were being recalled for repairs. Even more alarming, Peter discovered that these ships had not been built according to their original design plans. Modifications had been made in haste, deviating from the intended specifications. He now had evidence pointing directly to structural failure as the real cause of the Derbyshire's loss. Peter submitted all his findings to the Department of Transportation, but instead of reopening the case, officials dismissed him, saying the Derbyshire's sinking had already been investigated. The families refused to stay silent. In 1984, they formed the Derbyshire Families Association, determined to uncover the truth. In 1986, another bridge-class ship, the Kowloon Bridge, broke apart off the coast of Ireland due to hull cracks and sank. It was the last of the 6 bridge-class vessels that had not yet undergone repairs. This time, the British government finally ordered a new inquiry. For 6 months, experts debated, some blaming the design, others the sea itself. But Peter's evidence was once again ignored, cleverly swept aside. The official conclusion? No structural failure was found. The Derbyshire was simply another ship lost to the sea. For the families, it was like a slap in the face. They insisted the truth lay not in the ocean but in the system itself. Still, they refused to give up. In 1994, with the support of the International Transport Workers Federation, they funded a private investigation to locate the Derbyshire. Astonishingly, within 23 hours, the wreck was found, lying intact, 4 kilometers deep on the ocean floor. Over the next 6 years, thousands of photographs were taken, and a detailed investigation was conducted. The final report revealed the truth. At the very front of the ship was a storage area called the bosun's store, holding ropes, chains, and maintenance equipment. That night, as the ship rolled in the storm, the bosun's store door, built differently from the original design, failed, allowing seawater to pour in. The bow grew heavier, dipping deeper into the water. Waves smashed down harder, breaking ventilators and flooding the machinery room. As the bow sank lower, a massive hatch cover over the iron ore cargo hold also failed. Water began flooding one hold after another, dragging the bow deeper each time. Within minutes, the giant vessel, the pride of Britain's shipping industry, was gone, swallowed by the Pacific Ocean. The investigation revealed that all bridge-class ships had cracks near the bosun's store, and their hatch covers were below standard. The Derbyshire did not sink because of one massive design flaw, but because of a series of small cost-cutting compromises. Back in the 1970s, dozens of ships sank every year, and authorities treated it as just numbers on a chart. But thanks to the persistence of the Derbyshire families, the shipping industry was forced to change. New rules were introduced, inspections became stricter, and ship designs were improved. They didn't just find one lost ship, they exposed an entire industry and forced it to evolve. Even today, many of the safety regulations in the shipping world exist because of the MV Derbyshire, which still rests silently 4 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.